Winter made itself known as a chill burned London's night air. Coal-heated homes comfortably and families gathered, filling the city with an amiable glow. A month passed with no murders to the Ripper's name. Sorry, give me one moment. My sound is still being odd.
Very well.
Is there audio in the Discord stream? Like any background music
No,
or
no,
No,
right
there's
now.
no background music.
Okay. I thought it was my settings. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
You're right.
It was time someone put this error to right. The place was to be near Spitalfields Market. In a room rented by the night on Miller's Court off Dorset Street, a young prostitute by the name of Mary Kelly was silenced. A man clasped his hand over her mouth from behind. There was no reaction, no intake of breath, no scream, for a deep slice had been impressed upon her throat in the same instant. So clean was this slice that it did not begin to bleed until seconds had passed. And so this bed became her final resting place. Her body was not discovered till next afternoon, when the building's landlord knocked upon her door with some irritation. Mary Jane Kelly had been far from the ideal tenant. She had missed 6 weeks in payments, and he simply could not permit a 7th.
James, at your place?
Miss Kelly, are you there? No answer. Perhaps she's still sleeping.
A life of prostitution meant that her hours were subject to the needs of her clients, who of course were keen to meet at night, so it was not at all uncommon for him to find her sleeping past midday. He sighed before moving to a window to peer through. It was cracked, when quarreling with a man, apparently. A curtain from within blocked his view. Reaching daintily through the crack, he moved the curtain and looked within. The landlord withdrew his hand instinctively as he stared in horror. He had met eyes with what remained of her bloodied face. This contortion, if one could still define it as a face without a nose, ears, and other such reckless disfigurements, continued downward to her neck, which had been cut so severely that her head was solely connected to her torso through cracked vertebrae. Slashes and scrapings of the skin had occupied the heads, legs, and arms, while his body had been subjected to stab wounds, an endless amount, post-mortem, to accompany a weighted goring of the heart. This woman had been a source of great fun for her last man. Hours before, she was whole, speaking, perhaps drunken, perhaps flirtatious, perhaps decorated to be more enticing with the whore's makeup. She looked hideous now. She was no longer a woman, but mere lumps of meat and fat in need of sculpting by a butcher's hand. A table in the room was where her organs remained in a sloppy heap. Jack the Ripper thought the landlord. A shock charged through him. That abominable name. It has to have been him. He needed to alert Scotland Yard immediately. Turning heel without pause, he ran as fast as his legs would carry him away from the scene. Pendleton and I were northwest of London, along the outer ring of a rural village called Chipping Campden. There, surrounded by farmland, I sat comfortably in a house reading the paper. Jack the Ripper still at large, corpse found at Dorset Street, the most mutilated yet worthy of the devil himself. I think the headline is a bit too emphatic about this. What an awful case this is.
It's not entirely unexpected, however. After all, the public was led to believe the Ripper had been caught, and the previous murder the last.
I suppose the one saving grace to this is people will begin to question if Jack is who they really say he is. But this article just talks about how he may not have been acting alone. Why jump to that conclusion?
See it from their perspective, my lady. The Ripper had been arrested, and so before this, they only had to wait for his day of execution. It could be they're struggling to make sense of this new development.
Pendleton, do you think the Ripper will kill 1,499 more women? And it does seem like there are tons more suspects in addition to Jack now.
I would count Holmes, Watson, and even myself amongst them, given our visits to the East End. At any rate, the threat is enough that I've heard prostitutes fleeing the East End are being driven away elsewhere left and right, presumably by those fearing they will inspire the next murder.
It's just dreadful. Worse, this is likely what the true Ripper planned all along.
One moment.
Eat his ass!
And your place?
Indeed. Sherlock Holmes and the Yard are hard at work. They always are. I must note I by no means wish to discredit their efforts, but it may be time to admit we've reached a blockade of sorts.
Oh, I don't think that.
Is that so, my lady?
There remains one very effective way to catch the true Ripper, Pendleton. You know what it is, too, I'm sure.
Well,
He did know, and at this turn of conversation, his expression hardened. There are over 1,000 victims planned, and of those, he has identified one person he wants to kill. Me. Therefore, I will act as a lure, so that we may finally catch him. If Jack the Ripper does appear to target me...
my lady, I must object. This is too dangerous. Even if I, the police, and your friends were here with you for your
No one has seen Jack the Ripper in person. Even I, whom he targets, don't know his face or name.
Those who do haven't lived to describe it.
We haven't a clue as to who he'll target next unless we allow him the golden opportunity he needs to murder me. Also, Pendleton, I should like to tell you something. In the event that I lose my life, I've kindly asked Mrs. McLeod, the educational interpreter, to take care of all my assets. Should it come to pass, I will need you to arrange the relevant procedures in my stead.
My lady, when did you do that?
Last week, I sent a letter from here, and she was pleased to accept.
I understand. This is what led you to prepare your will, then?
Indeed, it was the very will I penned in his hand. Pendleton, when did you find that?
I apologize for doing so, but I read it before you went to sleep.
You're terrible. You shouldn't be sifting through my things without my consent.
And yet my actions were not as terrible as the contents of this will, I assure you. I counted over 10 elementary misspellings. Honestly, I've never seen a will less dignified.
Must I always tell you to mind your manners? I tried my hardest, but it's the first will I've ever written.
Though not the first time you've studied basic spelling, this would be a source of great embarrassment to you if learnt by the world. So I shall have to declare it null and void.
That is not for you to decide. I've not quite heard about it. With swift movement, he tore the will beyond repair and tossed it in a nearby rubbish bin.
But very well. If you are so determined, then I will not object. May we do what we can to catch the true Ripper. Although, I will say that this still may be too much for Holmes, Watson, and the police to handle.
Thank you, Pendleton. Let's make this the last crime he'll ever commit. I clenched my fist. It's been nearly a month since Jack was first arrested. There's only one more day till his execution, and time grows shorter by the hour. Even if I can't change your fates, I wanted some parts of the reality I faced to change. Some could not, and I simply had to put up with it. But some could if I did something, and whatever amount of work that would take, I was willing to do it. I wondered, with death whispering over my shoulder, did this new resolve make me seem more alive than ever the way it did Jack? I did not know until much later how far Pendleton was willing to go to swat away the Reaper.
It's meal time.
Alright.
Curious how even Jack the Ripper turns to bone if he doesn't eat. But you won't be eating for much longer, I suppose.
Leave, would ya?
You're a frightful man. At the face you make when cutting innocents to bits. We've another Ripper mess on our hands now too. To think you weren't working alone all this time.
How many times do I gotta tell you lot it weren't me before you listen?
Well, never mind it. You could say it as much as you like, but it won't change that you'll be dead come tomorrow.
The beefeater placed a chipped bowl of gruel on the floor. Jack showed no interest in touching it.
You heard the news about the girl who came to visit you. Miss Whiteley, was it? Now there's a brave young girl. It sounds like she'll be walking through the East End tonight to lure out the other Ripper.
What?
All life drained from Jack's face.
He would have posed no great threat to her with only the poor being targeted, so I commend her courage as noble. Although, I do recall the Ripper would kill 1,500 more girls. Was it 1,500? A man needn't pay it much mind, you see. And you've no method of telling your co-conspirator from here, so there's no harm telling you. Dead men tell no tales.
She wants to lure him out? Is she stupid? Has she lost her mind?
Well, why not find a way to tell your mate out there if the rumor's true? I don't care how many Rippers there are. There's more prisoners for me to watch.
He kicked the bowl and spoon into the air with his boot. Then, after taking a final glance towards Jack, he returned to his patrol.
Unbelievable. If I die here, Bradley will see to her murder. Tomorrow I shall be executed. Now's all I got left. Best use it.
Jack removed a false tooth, couched among his back teeth, one made unusually large to fit something that could evade an observant eye. A file, thin and pliable like wire, had been concealed in its hollow. He needed only to straighten it to transform it to a tool for his escape. Once lengthened properly, he motioned to the door's iron bars with the intent to saw against it. When he saw no one nearby to disrupt him, he began his work. Midnight came to a prompt chime of bells. A frosty wind swept through a near-silent tower. Most prisoners were long asleep, and if awake, they had no company to which to engage in banter. For them, the flapping of ravens was comfort enough.
Dear God, if you can hear me, help me. Please. Help me, powerless as I am, to break free and protect. Grant me this one wish, and I swear I won't care what else becomes of me.
Jack only paused his work to mark the symbol of a cross over his chest. And so he continued silently, without pause. The iron bars most certainly had been worn from previous years. It was not long before one could be removed through his efforts, after which, through strict maneuvering, he fiddled along the outer padlock to file away at its shackle. This, too, became worn enough to break in a little over half a day's time. Jack was careful to keep the pieces in hand, so they would not clatter against the floor. With all due caution, he pressed the door in hopes it would open. His hopes were answered.
It opened. Please let no one come.
Jack slipped out of the cell and looked for shadows in the hall. As he did, the sound of boots that were not his disturbed him.
Someone's coming.
A lantern could be seen in the distance. A patrolman, most likely, was ascending the staircase. Jack readied himself for the encounter. The guard took a sudden sharp blow to the pit of his stomach.
Easy there. No loud noises.
Another strike of good fortune. The beefeater had been knocked unconscious, and Jack leant his limp form against the wall. He then considered a third strike, leading him to rummage through the man's pockets.
Here we are. Sorry, but they'll do me better than you. I'll return them to the yard short.
Hey, Duck, you're cutting out a little bit at the
Yes,
end, I
I'm
think.
hearing that too.
Sorry.
No worries, just thought you should know.
Yeah, thanks.
And the third strike was his. Jack concealed the stolen keys before descending the staircase. His first destination would be the storehouse in the tower's basement, where his confiscated weapons were located. Were he to face anyone other than Bradley, he would have sooner abandoned them. For now, they were his closest chance to victory. His iron claws were familiar to him, and he continued to pray that they had not been discarded.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Do I sound okay? Better now?
So,
Yes.
All right. Which one's for the storehouse? This one?
Jack chose the oldest-looking key of the ones he saw. The rusty hinge before him gave only a slight creak, but it still worked.
Ah, found him.
His claws were still dried with blood from the last time he wielded them. The reminder that he had used them to hurt Watson, even if it was an accident, did not sit well with him.
Christ, they've got bits of rust. Gave them no sodden care.
The sight alone irritated him, so he observed the room to see if anything else had been left in the same poor condition. Several weapons belonging to fellow inmates struck him, bringing rise to a dark thought.
One of these might belong to someone I know. But this ain't the time to reminisce. I've work that needs doing.
He left the storehouse, locking it behind him so it would not look disturbed. He traveled to the roof of the tower, avoiding any signs of life all the while.
All right. Almost there.
As Jack stepped outside, he stood still. The air was cold, crisp, and welcome to his skin in a way he hadn't predicted. Until then, he did not know that outside, in a sense, could have taste, since when did air taste sweet? The cold, in some strange way, was warmer as a free man. Before he could take his first step, however, he sensed someone was behind him and turned.
Where do you think you're running off to at this hour? You're Emily's butler? What are you doing here? A sense of foreboding brought me here, as it happens. Over what? Dangling Emily out as bait for a beast? She made that decision herself, if you must know. Lady Whiteley believed it a risk worth taking if it meant the poor would no longer die and that London's people could sleep soundly. Why? Why not stop her from doing something so stupid? I did at first, but you must remember that I am at her service, not the other way around. It is my duty to obey what she has decided, and for her part, she summoned the strength to do what is right as head of the family. Charming. Well, I have no such duty, so I will gladly stop her. Do you not see the courage she has for exposing the truth? Do you not see the courage she has to expose the truth? To expose Jack the Ripper's true identity? And at no leisure pace, mind. She works to reveal it before your execution. I should think that if you truly care for her, you will honor that courage. Particularly since you must know, surely you must know why she has driven herself to this point. I know so well it hurts. But...
Jack made to argue. Pendleton sternly raised his voice.
You are the sole reason behind her actions. So I have no desire to stand aside gracefully. If you want to escape, it will have to be through me. If that's how it has to be. Don't got any sort of bones to pick with you, personally. But if you won't move, then I'll make you move. Objection! Then we begin.
Pendleton drew his gun.
I don't have any more desire to stand aside than you.
Their duel was started. Jack sidestepped before a bullet could fire, situating himself away from the moon's glow for protection.
He's made a fine cloak with all this fog. Don't even know where to start looking.
The mist, quite active with the wind still roaring, settled into the area seemingly more by the minute.
Where the hell is he? I thought I was the stealthier man between us.
The swirling fog gave way only enough for the moon to shine along the roof. Jack, to his worry and contrasting relief, saw no immediate signs that he was with company.
Well, if I cannot see him, then he cannot see me. What to do?
The tower's stonework had crackled over its many hundred years, leaving stray pebbles strewn about the rooftop's path. He picked up a sizable one and tossed it towards the highest point. The only response was the pebble's thud and its subsequent tumbling downwards. No unusual shuffling, no sudden relinquishing of breath once held to mask one's presence, yet this did not disappoint Jack.
Did he leave then? Suits me. It's time I left for the East End.
He turned his gaze in its direction and began to run.
Must I reiterate that you may only escape through me?
Jack heard whispering in his ears before being grabbed by the scruff of his neck. Instinctively, he forced himself free and pivoted to aim his blade for Pendleton's throat. The butler, however, unexpectedly prepared even for instinct's haste, stopped Jack's arm with a hardened grip.
I suspected as much. You were indeed trained to assassinate, then trifle with threats. No shit. A boy like me wants to live, then he's got to kill. Can only go so far if there ain't no other means. I spent my days in the slums till I was picked up, and it's taken everything in me to scrape along enough to stand here. I'm not people like you who were born with it all.
Jack swung his arm. Though he missed his target, he was close enough that several of Pendleton's hairs were carried away with the wind. Pendleton retaliated by readying his gun moments too late.
Gone again, I see.
Pendleton surveyed his surroundings as closely as the fog would allow in search of Jack. It wasn't long before he made himself known. Before Pendleton could fire, the gun had been swiped from him.
That won't do. I won't have a bullet sending for the police on my watch, so allow me to take it off your hands. By all means. A gun without any bullets is useless to me.
Expression unchanging, Pendleton produced a second pistol from his jacket and pointed it.
Just me luck. Well, not like you'd want to make yourself any more known than me. You're trespassing. The opposite, actually. I was granted permission. You and I have business that needs discussing. Not so fast! Do we? In that case, ta!
Pendleton ready to fire, but before his attempt at pulling the trigger, he was stopped. Jack had taken the butler's tricks and handiwork into consideration for this round. Jack aimed for the throat once more, as he always did when going for the kill. Close, so close, yet remarkably he did not follow through. Pendleton could feel the sharpest points of those iron claws ready to puncture his throat, but only just. They stared at one another in silence. Neither counted the seconds, nor did they blink. They waited, and waited still until it was no longer.
That will do, I suppose. I concede. The hell? Concede, is it? You never blooming tried. Do you think I'm stupid enough to believe I've come out the winner when you stand here all smiles like you just went for an evening stroll?
Jack's shoulders were shaking, and his breathing unsteady, as one should look after a duel between two competent men. Pendleton, of course, did not. His condition was perfect, as it always was.
I did wonder if you would buckle under enough opposition, and I have my answer. Now, if you're so intent on helping Lady Whiteley, you will come with me to the East End. Me? Go with you? Is this a joke? It is not. She volunteered to act as a lure and is set to wander throughout the East End at 1 o'clock in the morning. Scotland Yard shall serve as her escort, but you know as well as I do how dependable they are. Certainly do. They do have the benefit of the Holmeses, Watson, and the military escorting her as well, I might add. That isn't enough to protect her from the Ripper. Could be 10 men, could be 100, but he'll still find their flaw and exploit it. I'm inclined to agree. We must also consider that he won't take the bait at all. He may very well attack us the moment we let our guard down, making all planning for naught. This is a risky gamble in every respect. Will you still agree to accompany me? Don't got no choice, really. You'd be too interfering as an enemy, so we'd do better to protect her as allies. Then we are in agreement. I will gladly borrow your strength if it secures her future in turn. Now, we've no time to waste. Let us go before the fog lifts. The law doesn't take to those who help dead men walking like myself, you know. You sure you thought this through? I'm fine with that. I alone am not enough for this, and I believe this means enough to you that you would protect her regardless, correct? Oh, all right then.
Jack saw then how pointless his efforts to walk away from this, the victor were. He had been played in all respects, his emotions laid bare by a refined man who knew his heart better than Jack can mask it. What a complete fool he was!
Emily's not said anything about me, has she? Oh, not a single word. Right. Should have kept my mouth shut. Well done. You finally wear a face befitting your age. But you will still have to work for the truth, I'm afraid.
Together, they used the fog to their advantage to slip past the watchful eyes of the Beefeaters and escape the Tower of London. The East End was soon to be upon them.
Right this way, Miss Whiteley.
Thank you, Inspector.
You have the deepest respect of all Scotland Yard for your bravery.
The officers saluted in one entire motion. You're too kind. I don't know what good this will do, if any, but it's my pleasure to try if it's within my power. Still, I see neither hide nor hair of Pendleton. Just where has he gotten to?
Indeed. He mentioned he will return before the operation begins.
We still have another 20 minutes, my good man. I would advise a delay in plans if he's yet to return 5 minutes before we're scheduled to begin, however. The danger we're imposing upon her cannot be understated, and I think we all wish to prioritize her safety.
Agreed. We mustn't overexert yourself, Miss Whiteley.
If you have any second thoughts, you can stop at any time. Your life means more than any operation.
I appreciate the thought, but I'm all right. The alternative would be to run and hide from him, so I'd be on watch for him regardless. I only feel awful for bringing each of you into this matter. You didn't have to face the danger with me.
Oh, been caught up with this for some time now. I'm gonna catch up with this, but your bravery is worth their praise if your intellect isn't.
There are better ways to compliment me.
Are you certain about this, Emily? You look nearly out of your wits. I don't want you to push yourself too hard.
Don't be silly. Or so I said. He was a perceptive one, that Watson. Even when surrounded by a plethora of officers, allies, and such, my nerves were strained to their limits. I looked around me for comfort, but the feeling wouldn't leave me no matter how I tried to convince myself of my security.
I'm terribly sorry for the delay, my lady. I've returned.
Pendleton! Goodness gracious! Where were you? I stopped just short of finishing. Pendleton looked out of sorts. His face was dewed with sweat, and his eyes were as serious as I'd ever seen them. What this meant, I didn't know, but it was enough to silence me.
If no one objects, I will review our route one last time. First, we'll pass through Brady Street and enter Bucks Row. From there, we will visit the location where the first Ripper victim, Miss Nichols, was discovered. We shall then move to the backyard of 29 Hunbury Street, where the body of his second victim, Miss Chapman, was found. The third, Miss Stride, was discovered in the yard adjacent to the International Working Men's Educational Club on Burner Street. So that will be our next destination.
And the fourth, Miss Eddowes, was discovered in Mitre Square, Aldgate.
Finally, we have the fifth and final victim found along Miller's Court at Dorset Street, Miss Kelly. A police carriage shall also be waiting for you there to welcome you aboard. Until tomorrow, or when we deem it safe, the yard will stop at nothing to ensure your protection.
Thank you, Inspector. I gather 5 white English roses into my hands.
We'll be keeping watch over your surroundings. I'm absolutely certain tonight will be the night we catch our killer. Miss Whiteley, may God watch over you.
Thank you. Well, we'd best begin.
Of course, my lady.
Our starting point was a Scotland Yard police station north of the East End.
Are you frightened, my lady? Your hands are shaking.
It's nothing, truly. The streets were filthy, but I persisted in my march, an inconstant obstinance to my rhythm, step by step. Now that it's us, Pendleton, I'd like to discuss something. Should Jack the Ripper attack us?
Doug? Pendleton, are you there?
On them currently.
They're muted at the moment.
Okay.
He's typing. I'm guessing he's having some
I don't know
technical
what,
difficulties.
I don't know what
Screen of
that
death.
means.
DDoS?
Oh, blue screen. Okay.
Blue screen of death.
Oh, blue screen of death.
Quite the timing.
Lenny's blue screen of death has infected Duck's computer.
The Ripper got him.
Ripper got
The
him.
Ripper got him.
Yes, but technically, the Ripper loses as well.
I'm gonna get a water refill then. And a candy bar.
And sunflower seeds.
I'm so sorry about that. Right, where was I?
It's all good, man. Out of your control.
You're about to tell Emily about your blue screen of
Yeah.
death.
Yes. I understand. But, my lady, I have something to discuss with you also.
She's getting water.
Be funny if
Emily
Emily got a blue screen of death.
Do you, Pendleton?
Jack Millers has escaped from the tower. He is protecting you as we speak.
Jack? That can't be!
My lady, please, keep your voice down.
Pardon me, I just... Are you being sincere? Has Jack escaped from the Tower of London? But that will only add to his list of crimes.
It will. But he did so with an earnest desire to protect you. Before his execution, he wanted to do whatever he could for you.
And how did you come to learn this?
Whoops. The truth is, not long before my return, I requested a meeting with him. I do hope you'll excuse my acting out of line.
You don't seem the least bit guilty to me.
My lady, you must not seek him out. Doing so would alert our enemy to his presence.
That's very true. Jack is watching over me. I'm going to be all right.
We should continue, my lady. Stay close to me.
In time, we arrived at the final resting place of Mary Ann Nichols. What can I do here? I want to get to Jack. Let's hurry on. Let's get to him. I need to hurry, or we won't reach the location before dawn. There were 4 more places to visit. Annie Chapman was the full name of the next woman. Her body was no longer splayed crudely at the next place I stopped. What can I do here? Let's just hurry on again. There wasn't any time to waste. I had to keep going. There were 3 more places to visit. I next arrived at the location of Elizabeth Stride, the 3rd victim, a woman who, like them all, deserved no such fate. What can I do here? Okay, I feel sorry for this one. I will place a flower and offer some prayers. May you safely reach the kingdom of heaven. I placed down a rose, and I prayed with all my heart for her soul. The fear I felt in this moment wanted to consume me, but I fought to deny it. I told myself, how did she feel as death overcame her? I was grateful not to understand. I had the men of Scotland Yard, Pendleton, and Jack to thank for that. There were 2 more places to visit. When we arrived at the location where Catherine Eddowes once lay, we stopped. What can I do here? Let's place a flower and offer prayers again. May you safely reach the kingdom of heaven. I placed a white rose with her body, where her body had been, and prayed in earnest. It was a cold night in the East End, so terribly cold, in fact, that my hands were growing numb from our walk. Jack, did you know how much knowing you were there strengthened me? There was only 1 place left to visit. It's getting rather chilly now, and the fog is thickening.
Which is why you must take care. We don't know if the Ripper is lurking within this fog and waiting for his chance.
I know. I'll be careful. What served our enemy as a fine blanket instead smothered the police. I had no choice but to stay aware of my surroundings, lest the men watching over me become unable to see me at all. Yes, I needed to remember how dangerous my position was. Forgetting meant death, and so I braced myself for the end. The final location was where Mary Jane Kelly had been discovered, the 5th victim, the last. The room had been left just as it was in her death. The glass was still crudely cracked, the door still ajar from its initial discovery, and the sheets still in disarray. Of all the places I visited, death smelt strongest here. This is the last. What can I do here? Let's place a flower and offer some more prayers. May you safely reach the kingdom of heaven. I stretched my hand out to place a white rose in the corner of the room. That was when a loud bang came from outside.
My lady, get down!
We crouched from inside the room. I could only assume that noise came from an officer firing his gun.
Miss Whiteley, are you alright?
An officer shouted loud enough through the window for me to hear. Yes, what happened? Was it Jack the Ripper?
Most likely, but it was too fast and all of a sudden. Disappeared into the fog before it even fired our own warning shot.
So then, the Ripper is nearby?
It may well have been him, but...
All the horrors I push out of my mind surface rapidly. With every pound of my heart, the fear rose and the room blackened. Fog enveloped my senses as it darted through the broken window in a monstrous form, coiling around me and grazing my cheek with a serpentine tongue of mist and smoke. I extended my arm to fight it off, but when I reached out, I saw not even my own hand. When this beast bared its fangs, I spotted a glint. Someone had a knife.
There you are.
Pendleton was the first to react as he thrust a fist in its direction.
Whiteley, I think.
More tech issues.
A lot of tech issues in the land down under tonight.
Yep. Wait.
What's going on in
Okay.
Australia, man?
We're currently having a solar flare. You're in my way.
The assailant grabbed hold of his arm and pulled him in. Pendleton! He used his other hand to retaliate with a loaded pistol, but the bullet missed its mark. As I moved to his side, all instinct froze me in my tracks. The knife cut through the fog again. Why this was the only thing I could see could not be processed in any reasonable sense to an erratic mind. All I knew was that I could not see myself, but this thing, this knife, stared at me with a salivating mouth.
My lady!
Did Pendleton call out to me? Was his cry some figment created from desperation? The world had turned slow and mute. Only the knife had color. Only the knife had sound. I saw it, pointed directly towards me and only me. Nothing else felt as close. No! A streak of light cut in front of me. I jumped backwards reflexively. I must have. It was fortunate my body worked whilst my brain staggered. As I barely evaded the oncoming attack, all I saw were wisps of my own hair scattering about, and suddenly I was cognizant. He's targeting my neck, my throat! This swirling phenomenon of fog and slashes was not any monster, but our king, Jack the Ripper. As he grew closer, the eyes that watched mine glistened. My breathing grew disheveled. There was no running or something so foolish as fighting back. I was trapped and trembling, the lone frog in the pond for the snake to feed. Death approached. To scream or make any sort of whimper would only invite it sooner. I can't call for help. I can't breathe. But what can I do then? Every breath gives me away. But what can I do? I held my breath, a worthless ploy. My throat became so parched that it started to hurt. A painful prickling would follow if I swallowed. I dared not move for fear of the dry, smacking sound of tongue on teeth. Jack the Ripper was there, even if I saw no silhouette. What brought fear worse than seeing him was not being able to, and yet knowing he was there. My lungs tightened with the pain of breath held too long, and the pressure pushed against my throat. I went to put my hand over my mouth to muffle my breath. And as I did, I felt a foreign hand being placed over it from behind me. No! He's found me! The color drained from my face. I waited.
Quiet. It's me.
Jack? It was him. Oh, thank God it was him.
Come on, and don't make a sound.
He took my hand and tugged me along. And just like that, the immediate danger had passed as we left Miller's Court. I never thought we'd speak again. This isn't a dream, is it? But a sense of security was coming back to me, and as my heart calmed itself to a comfortable tremor, I thought of the texture of his voice and the feel of his hand. Jack was real. Jack was here. We could meet, talk. I couldn't understand it, but then why bother to understand? I was happy. So I did what I could to hide my elation. This wasn't the time to feel giddy and girlish. I needed to remember that I was still the lure. Afraid as I was doing precisely what I meant to. The first thing Jack did was move close to my ear and whisper.
Emily, I'm going to attract Bradley's attention, and then I will kill him. Don't go running off. The yard's been thrown into confusion, and with the fog thick as it is, they won't know me and him from Adam.
He was as serious as I'd ever seen him. The bells of St. Mary's Matfelon's Church chimed then, indicating 3 o'clock in the morning. And so we ran together, using its mighty tolls to silence our footsteps. We raced through the streets, turning left, right, backwards, forwards, through deserted alleyways and whatever mazes permitted us freedom, and then we leapt and moved till we reached a rooftop that was dark enough to grant us sufficient cover.
What possessed you to volunteer as a decoy? Reckless girl. Thought my heart would stop when I heard.
I could say the same thing to you. That wasn't what I wanted to say, but I didn't want to scold or bicker here. Thank you, Jack. I was so afraid when I was separated from Pendleton.
You'll be alright. Changing guard from him to me was part of the plan. At present, he should be searching for a chance to take a clean shot.
That's good then. I'm glad.
A fog this thick will not hinder Jack the Ripper, mind. Move about with caution. The night could be clear and lighted with the stars, or it could be heavy fog like tonight. But it's all the same to him. Even my eyes aren't as good as his.
Jack had me grip his left wrist. His entire arm was considerably thin. Jack never had a healthy build, but this was no natural slimness. It was one molded after weeks deprived of hearty meals. The Tower of London had been cruel to him. It hurt to picture it.
Keep hold, Emily. You can't let go. Don't care what happens. Should we become separated, he may find you before I do.
How far do you plan to go?
Your butler's advised that in this event, I'm to take you to a coach off Dorset Street. And I shall do just that. Once that's done, I will send off the Ripper.
I remembered this face. I saw it when he was behind a cell, and now I had to see it again when he stood freely. Jack was content, worryingly so. I didn't want to see him like this, with this dignified countenance. I didn't want to see how he looked as he accepted his own death. Jack, you're not... My heart skipped a beat. And here he was. He had escaped his cell, and if he so willed it, he could avoid it. But he wasn't a dishonest person by his very nature. My voice lowered to a whisper to control the unease. You're not planning to send yourself off with him, are you?
When did I say that? Now, no more of that face.
He followed this with faint laughter and a poor attempt to comfort me. What followed was silence, and I so looked up at the moon, which glimmered faintly through the fog. Perhaps it would soon begin to lift. When I looked back down, I was startled by a silhouette of a robed figure standing at the opposite end of the roof. A boy's voice broke the silence.
Well. Ain't seen you mug in a while. But it's not a pleasant night for a romantic stroll now, is it?
His face was shadowed behind the hood of his robe, but the shape of his figure was small and delicate. A blink of an eye, and that small figure could easily be gone with the weather.
Bradley, I did have the sense there was something disagreeable sneaking about, so you followed us.
Sure did. Almost lost sight too. Nearly did. Thanks to the church bells ringing and causing me to focus go away. But I shan't speak no more on the subject. You're Miss Whiteley, ain't you? I seen you made yourself bait to draw me out.
Are you Jack the Ripper, then?
In the flesh? Wasn't going to chance showing myself off Phoenicia.
Bradley stepped closer to us in a slow manner.
But how sweet are you? A tough living in a fine situation. To put your life on the line for the poor. Tugs in me heart, it does. I've put mine to praise you for it. Rather, I would've, if it wasn't for all your self-settling, your shadow. So sorry, it's so tongue-twisty.
I've been tongue-twisty tonight as well.
Brother, I would've, if it wasn't to satisfy your vainglory. Wherever you had you believe, it'd be easy to cower to me.
A silver flicker caught my attention near the bottom of his sleeve.
Get behind me, Emily. He won't pass the time with me if he can target you first.
Jack reached his hand out in front of me. This monster, a child in red, would give chase so long as I breathe. I had neither the knowledge nor adroitness to fend myself against him, and I would have been foolish to think otherwise. I had faith then that Jack wouldn't do what I couldn't. That Jack would do what I couldn't. Jack, stay safe, please.
Quite a lofty request, but I won't ignore it.
I complied, and as I moved into the background, Jack stepped before me to face our common enemy.
Bradley, are you doing this on the Professor's orders?
Not in particular, but use your damn head. It's just common sense, eh? Eyewitnesses must be done away with, and organization fin flourish. Except the whores. Butchering those whores was all me. I shall bring them all reckoning when they soon won't forget.
Then it was you who put out the letter about killing 1,500 prostitutes.
Yes, I'm quite proud of it too. Almost a shame I penned you in your style, so no one knew it's me. We live in a place flush with penniless whores who drink their minds rotten, play loose to fuck strangers, and bring about more penniless sods who ain't never seen us to be born. Me mum was one you knew. Never learned her name. Just as well, a poor abandoned child like myself was only brought here to fuck and have more like me. Whores are all eight in depravity. All I'm doing is granting him divine punishment. And when London is plunged into the depths of fear, the masses will turn their cogs to slime. And I say, if only the police wasn't so inept. If only Her Majesty wasn't so inept. London ain't never had been what it turned into today.
The police? Inept? What rubbish! The whole country's full of themselves. They complain about this, complain about nonsense, complain about the police's ineptitude, whilst they sit in complete security. And who gave them that security? Just how many officers still spend their nights and risk their lives to protect them?
Jack narrowed the distance between him and Bradley.
Forget how you dream being a cowper. Over the moon you was. When you got to attend Arrington, even if it weren't for more than a missing.
Shut up!
Pitiful, babe. Shan't never do your kin step through. Because of your worthless child born from a rubbish heap in the slum. Colonel Ryan find you hungry and parched, and so he raised you as his own. And you twist a knife in his back. I changed my man. I shall damn well kill you first. A sinner for killing the colonel. A sinner for not killing her. A sinner for being born in this filthy squalid hole. It ain't too late to return. Let me help ya.
This is how it should have been from the start.
The first move was Jack's, who swung his iron claws aggressively downwards at Bradley's feet.
At all? I'll strengthen their skill.
In turn, Bradley drew closer, fear non-existent, delivering his knife in a single, hastened stroke that caused Jack to stifle his breath.
That won't work.
The only thing the blade touched was a small part of Jack's coat. It was a game of dodge and strike, stepping forwards and stepping back. The darkness made for excellent cover no matter where they moved, and they were both adept at using it. As I thought it would, the fog did indeed lift. I strained my eyes to look below, and to my surprise, I immediately met eyes with several officers scanning the rooftops. Holmes and Watson were present as well.
James, as you will, please.
Look! There!
That's Miss Whiteley and Jack Miller's.
Why, he should be locked up in the Tower of London. What in God's name is he doing there?
I don't know. I can only assume he's broken free of his cell, but it was on the top floor.
That other boy has a knife in his possession. So there is more than one Ripper.
I wouldn't be so quick to jump to conclusions. From where I'm standing, Jack Malone is trying to protect Miss Whiteley.
I can't argue that, but whether he is or isn't doesn't change that she's in danger. Rescue Miss Whiteley and apprehend those boys. And prioritize her safety above all else. All remaining officers, seal off the area around Dorset Street.
Sir!
And so I watched the officers of Scotland Yard disperse.
Can I come with you, Ryan? They're both very dear friends of mine.
Of course. With me then.
Thanks.
The police are coming. They hurried upwards to us in an organized fashion. My footing on the rooftop had become a bit unstable in time, and though I struggled, seeing more in our ranks come to the rescue lightened my unease. It took no time at all before they poured along the rooftop from the very same staircase Jack and I had used.
Emily! This way!
Right?
We didn't mean to take so long.
This one too. You stay out of this.
Bradley would not have his prey escape. His attention shifted from Jack to me.
I need to let you as a witness to my victory. I should give her a good ripping after, as one does. Or would you perhaps fancy being killed first? Because I can arrange that.
The fear that froze me before had seized hold of me again.
Watch out!
The knife swiped with my throat as the target. I could see it coming closer, stretching to absorb my view no matter how wide my eyes grew in fear. But I was safe as Jack rushed to pull me close to him. Jack!
Did you get hurt?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
You gone stupid on me, Bradley. I thought I made it plain that this is between you and me.
Jack's eyes were inflamed with anger.
Are you hurt, Emily? Get her away from here. See to it she's safe. Of course. This way, Emily.
Yes, sir. I tried to meet Ryan.
Copper. This ain't your business.
Hello? This ain't your business neither.
Bradley, who once moved with a ferocious, spontaneous elegance at the start of this encounter with Jack, now stumbled and swayed, but not far from fatigue. My instincts left me more curious than afraid. He's so uncertain on his feet. What happened? He moved with such speed before. Could it be drugs? An elixir, perhaps?
What are you looking at?
Did that not pick up? Hold on. Did it not? Again, I saw myself light up.
No.
I
my
don't know
God.
if you've, I don't know if you've tried it, but try leaning back farther.
Leaning back? Okay.
Yeah.
Bradley tossed a knife in my direction. I did flinch, but it only missed by a significant distance. It embedded itself on the roof, hitting no one. With no follow-up encounter, I took advantage of the opening and was led by Ryan away from the scene.
My lady, I'm so glad you're all right.
Pendleton! To see the genuine relief upon his face was a great comfort to me. But, Pendleton, please, save Jack! He's fighting the Ripper and all alone!
Yes, I know. I've seen it all from down here.
He was quick to respond to my concerns.
I will assist him, so fear not. The Ripper has made himself known to us tonight, which makes for a perfect opportunity to dispose of him. Ah, but I see Holmes and Watson are keen to assist him as well.
Oh my! When I last looked to the rooftop, Jack was alone. Now, he was accompanied by two more figures, Holmes to his left and Watson to his right. And the police are also ascending the stairs to corner him.
Of course they are. Each of them has risked his life to pursue this case, and now the end is in sight. Right now, we all wish for the same thing Jack does. Since he has so many helping hands that we may cave in the roof, were we all to stand upon it, would you mind terribly if I amended my statement and stayed here to guard you?
Please do.
Nice work luring this monster out of the fog.
The shape of his knife is precisely in line with his suspicions. It's a matter of finding out how many more he has hidden in that rope.
Bah! Where the hell did you come from?
Holmes, Watson, I want to tell you to stay out of my way. But I could certainly use a nice lot of help. Couldn't handle him as he is alone.
I rather like this honesty from you, Jack. You got to try it more often.
Oh, shut up.
Well then, I'm honored, they say. I didn't plan on fixing me a murder spree, but I count myself an amenable sort. Tonight, I'll show 150 policemen, and I shall do so one at a time. So line up like good boys and wait.
Would sooner have you be the first in line.
Bradley's expression shifted to repulsed anger. He left any calculative intent behind for wild slashing in any direction he would pin his weapon.
Ready? Say a lot of Lucifer for me.
He hurled the knife in his hand.
That's enough of that.
Watson, having no fear of how weakly it had been thrown, swung his arm to block it. Its aim was so indirect that he received no scratch.
You bag of shit!
Now, Jack.
Jack had used the moment to take Bradley and restrain him with Holmes' assistance. Had Jack wanted, or could, as he very much wanted, he could have made this Bradley's final moments, but doing so now would deem Watson and Holmes accomplices. They were good, honest men. They and the police were good, honest people living good, honest lives. In his pausing, with the body of a boy he sought to kill beneath him, he thought first how none of them deserved to live with the label of murderer. Would he have lived the childhood he was given if he could go back? If given the choice? Never, ever would he have done it. And so he made the only choice he had, to not drag innocence into the ugliness he had once come to know so well. Though Bradley had been subdued, victory on the side of the police was not absolute. Bradley was a monster in more ways than one, and his stamina limitless.
What is it? You can perish me now, can't you? You really are soft-hearted, Jack.
Bradley showed no terror in the face of death, with wide eyes of pure ecstasy that stared unblinkingly at Jack. With another knife hidden along his wrist, he wrestled free just enough to take aim at Holmes' arm. The blade met its target, only a graze, but the loosening of Holmes' grip was all the boy needed. Bradley grabbed that same knife before it could fall and raised himself to target Jack's chest. Jack had not the time to expect this. Death was coming to him, dressed in red and wearing a hellish smile. Instinct took play as he moved his arms in front of him. The knife was flung away. Without pause, Jack took aim at Bradley's heart in retaliation. And then he stopped. Just short of piercing through flesh, Jack was unmoving.
See? Much too soft, Jack. You've gotten so weak. Pitiful, sweet babe.
Bradley reached towards his hand of Jack's to cradle it in a tender motion.
I'd give anything to have what you have. Friends like you got.
He gave the blades on Jack's claws a firm, decided squeeze.
Bradley!
He rammed the blades backwards into his own chest.
You... Why?
'Cause I ain't been took to a dark cell.
Jack wanted to say something, anything, but nothing he said could mend a heart once pierced. He began to pull away in a dazed state. As his eyes began to mist over, Bradley watched his wound, fascinated. The way his muscles teared and his insides throbbed introduced him to a focus that he never knew possible. His sockets pumped around his eyes. His nerves delivered pain to his nails, his teeth, his tongue. Jesus Christ, it was everywhere. And with the right atrium having been pierced, bright red blood sprayed.
That's it, Jack. You're so weak. Weren't no match for me.
His knees buckled.
Professor, I didn't saucy Jack. Butchered him proper. Like I said I would.
It's both sight to see a boy reduced to a drugged hallucination.
Holmes' own wound was a scratch. The blood only wet the fabric of his arm, posing no danger to him.
Where are you watching, sir? Look for tomorrow's paper. Do you remember the girl we had at the workhouse, Jack?
He lifted his arm, a struggle on his part, and then he was gone. Once a boy, now a body like his victim's, it swayed to the side, hitting the rooftop before tumbling to the ground with an unceremonious thud. From there, it lay.
He was such an idiot.
That would be the last night the world heard from Jack the Ripper. Jack! I ran into him after he descended the stairs in a hurry.
Oh, Emily. I'm glad you're all right.
He wore for me a despondent smile. I could say the same to you! Why on earth did you break free just for me?
What does it matter? You'd best not touch me. I've got all this blood on me and I don't want it getting on your pretty clothes.
Jack,
The fog's come back again. Seems as good a time as any to go. I'm pleased I could end this. I would have hated to die before the Ripper.
How can you be so foolish? Why do something so dangerous? He didn't answer. He turned away as if to leave for good, but I couldn't let that happen and grabbed his arm. I pulled him into the tightest embrace. I didn't care about the blood on his hair and skin.
Stop! I told you not to touch me. I'm filthy. The blood's gonna get on you.
You aren't filthy, and a little blood isn't going to hurt me. You just don't know how happy I am that you're here, that you're alive. Jack seemed unsure of what to do. His body became stiff, and when he tried to wriggle away, I tightened my grip to keep him close. Thank you, Jack, for being alive and for protecting me.
You're,
Being able to see you again makes me happier than words can describe.
Sorry. Didn't mean to kick up a fuss.
It's all right. Finally, he returned my embrace. I smelled iron strongly, but I was so grateful to hold him. He was so, so warm. Thank you so much, God. Thank you so much for returning him to me. Even if it couldn't be forever.
Jack Miller's.
When Jack and I separated, I noticed the handcuffs the inspector held when he approached.
Beg your pardon, Inspector. The Ripper is responsible for his own death. I saw it myself.
I saw it too. He grabbed hold of Jack's hand and stabbed his own heart.
Please believe us, Inspector.
I couldn't see what transpired all that well, but what I could see was that he was indeed protecting you, Miss Whiteley.
Oh,
That said, we still need to bring him in for questioning. We must conclude beyond doubt that he has no involvement whatsoever in these crimes, especially since he's been proven to have a relationship with the true culprit.
Could he not report to the station tomorrow? This is hardly the hour for children to be walking the streets.
Pendleton approached behind me, placing a protective hand atop my head. Pendleton? I wasn't fond of being treated like a child. That was the reality. I was young, and an adult would be much more convincing in this situation than I ever could.
You make a fine point. My men are exhausted from so many all-night patrols as well. If the head of House Whiteley ensures that he will report to Scotland Yard promptly tomorrow, then I find the arrangement agreeable.
Inspector.
Now, I'm certain all of you have plenty of catching up to do with your friend. But remember to get a fair amount of rest too. And Jack, at exactly midday tomorrow, we will be required to turn you over to the Tower of London. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Oh, but I don't, have anywhere to stay tonight.
He seemed embarrassed to admit as much, though no one in his company thought ill of him for it.
Ah, I see. Why don't you stay with us? Our flat's small, but our landlady makes the meals, and...
What? Sin?
What are you doing, Holmes?
Holmes pinched and tugged mercilessly at Watson's cheek without sparing him a glance before facing Inspector Lestrade.
It is a shame, Inspector. We're in the midst of sorting through case files. The place is in shambles, leaving us with no extra rooms for guests. Might I suggest that he stays in one of Whiteley's mansion's guest rooms? I hear that a certain handsome young woman has left his butler and maids, part for someone docile to look after.
Gracious me! Whoever could you be referring to?
And after tonight's terrifying ordeal, I should think Miss Whiteley would benefit from having someone with whom she can converse.
Well, that's sorted then. All right with you, Romeo?
You still wrote me in and ask after the... You still wrote me in and ask after the fact? How do you suggest I say no?
We'd love to welcome Jack. Do you have any objections, Inspector?
By all means, welcome him. I think it's a splendid idea.
There's such a blooming thing as asking!
Oh, you needn't hide your feelings. I know you'd be delighted to stay with me. You are, aren't you?
I am.
We boarded a coach to the mansion soon after bidding everyone a pleasant night. Upon our return, Jack was lavished with pampering left and right by the staff. He did not respond well to it at first, though it was less out of dislike and more from being unaccustomed to such treatment. It was, in an endearing sort of way, entertaining to watch him adjust. My favorite reaction had come after he emerged from the bath.
That bathtub is huge, Emily. I thought I was dreaming when I first seen it.
is it? But it's ever so relaxing to soak in.
I liked it. And the food here is excellent. You may have finally convinced me you're a noble woman.
Do you mean to say I don't act the part?
Rather, you act more like a boy, and when you see any old chap, rich, poor, whatever, you march straight up to him for a jolly chat. You're an unusual noblewoman, but I can appreciate how different a life you've had to mine now.
Really? But I suppose you have a point. Mother and father left this mansion and everything in it to me. They gave me a life of comfort, which has molded me to some extent. I can't know the pain of those who aren't as fortunate as I am by virtue of my birth. Perhaps it's silly, but it makes me wonder if perhaps Bradley would have been different were he born in better circumstances.
Maybe. I suppose you're right. I suspect you're right.
Do you not have parents, Jack?
I don't. We grew up with the same troubles, Bradley and I. Was alone early on, so with no home, I did what other skinny and starved orphans do. Begged on the streets. I think I said as much to you before.
Something like it, yes, but you never said how you lost your parents. Was it illness?
No. Was abandoned. Happens often enough for the poor, so don't mind it.
I sat down next to Jack and took his hand. Years of misery had been etched into him. He said not to mind it, said it as though worrying was unnecessary if many knew that same misery. But how could I ignore it when it looked like it still hurt? Then, Jack, what led you to start doing what you did?
Right. Of course you'd ask. And hard to tell you, really. It's not just that I ought. You deserve to know after all you've been through. But it's a long answer. I'll have to start from when I was born.
He looked away and paused with distinct pregnancy, such that its weight could be felt on my shoulders.
It begins with a child, left to die between barrels of booze by a drunken prostitute, with only the shade to protect him. That child was me. But I didn't die. I'd been took to a workhouse instead, allowed to live on the condition I worked. Young as I was, I needed to earn my keep. So I, just as small as can be, spent my days from dawn till the dead of night in a tiny room shelling walnuts. Supplies to the army fighting a war abroad, they said. I didn't understand it. I was a boy. No one ever told me what war was. And I was always hungry. My meal was a watery gruel once a day. If that wasn't enough for your health or you happened to take ill, it was the cemetery for you. I met Bradley at the workhouse, as it happens. He was seated next to me, and we were of similar age, so we started to talk. We talked about how, no matter what we had to do, we couldn't die in the workhouse. He was desperate as I was to get out. I didn't have to wait long after for my wish to be granted.
Did you run away together?
No. It was about then a man visited the workhouse. Came to say he wanted to adopt one of the children. I was the one he chose. He was damn strict, but he was also the first person who ever gave me any bit of praise. I learnt a lot from him. The man was a former soldier and knew his weapons, which he passed on to me. It took time. Perhaps he'd seen potential in me. When the time was right, he instructed me how to kill without making a sound. I wanted to repay my debt to him. Well, no, not debt. I think I wanted him to praise me. Whatever the truth was, I obeyed his orders and produced results. I did notice, mind, that me dad was a criminal who earned the money that fed us through theft and intimidation.
Jack. He paused again and followed it with a sigh. The smile he gave to assure me was more unnatural than true.
You can laugh if you want, but I wanted to be a policeman when I became a man.
I wouldn't laugh at you. Why that?
I thought about it on a rainy day before I lived in the workhouse. A drunkard attacked me, nearly killed me, but a patrolling officer ran to my aid. I was skin and bones and more dirt than human, but he was angry on my behalf. When the danger was gone, he gave me a bit of his food. I ate some on his back as he carried me to a local doctor. I didn't know him, and he didn't know me. Yet when I needed it, that officer helped me as though it were only the natural thing to do. Now, it wasn't natural as I understood it. In the East End, you do what you can do. You do what you can to survive, and to hell with the rest. But the police ain't like that. They're different. They'd take a bullet if it meant someone else could live. The only ones who work without question to protect society. Even us, who ain't worth the bother of the police. You hear decent folk talk nonsense about how they're a useless lot or how they don't do anything. Me? I'd sooner argue the opposite. They have cases as violent as the Rippers, and they still work it. They might not live, but they might save someone else by doing so. It ain't hard for them to quit and live comfortably. I wouldn't fault them for it. But they still work to save the poor. Save someone like me. In my eyes, their character is to be commended.
Yes, you're quite right. Jack let go of my hand to stand and stare at the window. Reality could be cruel. Jack was alone, left to starve and saved by a thin margin by working for scraps. He escaped through his father, only to dive into a dark world that taught him murder. What reward had there been for him in living?
It's funny, ain't it, that I would want to be a policeman.
Not in the least. Harrington is filled with students who want to be policemen, detectives, all kinds of things.
I was there to gather information from me dad. That's all. The idea wasn't to watch the students, but rather learn more about their families and ties to the police.
Then, you didn't try to make friends or address those spreading those terrible rumors about you?
Right. Even if we became chums, I was a spy. I'd put the knife in their back soon enough. I shall admit, though, that my time spent with you and the rest of that queer lot in class was fun.
He hadn't turned to face me, but I could see his soft smile from the reflection of the window. I wanted to smile too, but he reminded me. I needed to cherish those memories, as fond as they were for me, for those times were no longer. Do you wish you could attend school again?
I can wish, but it won't happen. Still, even if it was to suit his own ends, he was the one who allowed me to go to school. Through him, I could make some normal memories, make friends.
Jack turned to me briefly before he looked off elsewhere.
And meet you.
Jack. That last part was through a low, embarrassed sort of mumble, but I still caught what was said. My chest fluttered upon hearing it. I couldn't ask for greater expectations than what I had now. Jack was alive, he was here, with me. That was enough to overwhelm me. Any more, and I would hardly be able to contain myself. I dug my nails into my palms and turned away, so as to not be defeated by the urge to cry.
Do you have a sweetheart? Or someone you wish was?
What? Pardon? The question took me by surprise. What kind of question was that? Why? That's quite the thing to ask.
There's no particular reason. I should expect there to be someone with our schoolmates. Watson's a fine fellow for one. And Holmes is always a real gentleman in front of you.
Well, I wouldn't know. Your imagination's running wild.
Oh, all right.
Underneath that whisper was a note of relief. By the by, Jack, will you be returning to the Tower of London tomorrow?
I will. I'll go back.
But if you go back, you'll... Couldn't say it. I couldn't and I didn't want to. The very thought of his execution, the word even, and its utterance would no doubt result in me losing what composure I had left. You can't go back. If you do, you'll... If I couldn't say it, then the one thing left to do was plead with him. With a gentle air, he approached again to stroke my hair.
Look at you. Why'd you look so sad?
What a thing to ask! I've wanted to see you since we've parted, and when that miracle came to be, it's only to bid you to... This is there. When Jack looked at me, I wondered how someone with such a past had maintained clarity in his eyes. For all they had seen, they remained unblackened. He had been so courageous when coming to save me. I wanted to save him too. I would have given anything to save him. Why wasn't I allowed to?
Emily, I didn't flee the tower to escape my crimes.
It wasn't the first time Jack said this. The hand he placed on my arm with a light squeeze seemed to serve as some gentle reminder. But I...
Come on now. Don't cry.
Don't! Am I supposed to laugh when you're... I was going to yell and cry until my tears stopped me, but something else had stopped me first. It was a warm and unknown sensation. Whatever words I had for him had been completely stolen away. To think a kiss would feel so kind. The moment was hushed, so shy, and far too brief. Jack. I'd been completely swept away by the moment. His lips weren't those described of a fairy tale princess. The texture was cracked and dry, and they weren't particularly full either, but they were Jack's, which made them more attractive to me. They gave me his sadness and pain, a burden to others, but a heavenly force to me. If it could keep me as close to him as I was now, I would gladly be crushed by the weight of everything he'd been forced to carry on his own. After some time, Jack withdrew from me.
Are you angry with me?
No, a bit startled, but not angry.
That's good then.
We kept close, and though I reassured him, he didn't appear particularly proud of himself. I ask why?
Well, you see, if I'm to tell you the truth, I'm in love with you. This might be the last time I've got to spend with you, so I wanted to chance it. I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing?
Why wouldn't I? Who in their right mind would want me to fall in love with them?
Don't think like that. I'd rather you not say such things, not when I'm overjoyed to know you love me.
Oh.
understand? Jack returned with a bashful smile, which I'd never seen from him before. I never wanted to forget it.
I'd like to scoop you up in my arms and disappear. Just the two of us.
Oh, I'd like that. That would be wonderful. I nodded just slightly, hopefully, as if it were something that wasn't altogether impossible. How lovely life would be if we could run to a place where tomorrow would never come.
We'd certainly enjoy ourselves. Lots of places I ain't never been to in London. There are places I'd want to visit with you too. Rural villages to the north and the like. Which brings me to ask, is that of the Cotswolds?
He pointed to a painting on the wall. Why, yes it is! It's absolutely beautiful in person. I grew up there.
Did you? You're a country girl then, are you?
You could say that. By my house was this little pond full of ducks. Wild rabbits ran across the hills, and in the spring, fields of rapeseed that were golden yellow swayed with the wind.
Really? Sounds almost too good to be real.
We should have both been too exhausted for conversation. I don't know how long we reminisced and shared stories, but before I finally closed my eyes, I had the distinct feeling the sky had become light. The birds twittered their usual song with the sun.
Emily, you gone to sleep? Well, guess you had to sleep at some point after all that happened. I wish I could stay here. I'd watch your sleeping face forever if I could. But a promise is a promise. The inspector's placed his trust in me, and I shall live up to it. So, this makes goodbye then. I'm gonna turn myself in. Thank you, Emily.
After caressing her hair one last time, Jack stood from the edge of her bed. In silent prayer, he hoped that whatever blissful dream she was having would last long enough that perhaps even his final judgment would have commenced by the time she next opened her eyes. The thought was disrupted by a polite knocking at the door. He answered only loud enough for the person on the other side to hear.
If you want Emily, she's asleep. Good morning, Jack. If you finished talking with her then, I should like to discuss something rather important with you. Important? With me? Indeed. Come with me to another room. We would risk disturbing her sleep if we were to speak in here. All right.
That night marked an abrupt end to the scandalous headlines that wrapped the public in fear for so long. Though we bore witness to Bradley's last moments, the whereabouts of the body remained unknown, no matter how diligently the police scoured the area. And indeed, not a single paper had reported his death. The legend of Jack the Ripper was first one of fear, then, as time passed, one of curiosity, as all unknowns are bound to become, then, even as more time had passed, merely one of many in history's pages. Due to lack of evidence, Jack Miller's execution was stayed. But he was still to be locked within the Tower of London. He had been charged with numerous other offenses beyond the dismissal of the Ripper murders, and those had yet to be fully investigated.
My lady, you're going to be late for school.
Yes, I know.
You've become quite the celebrated person in London after your display of heroism. I urge you to be more wary of danger lurking round the corner at all times. Surely you see my concern.
Of course I do. Now, I'm ready to go.
Very well.
I departed the mansion. We knew the worst was behind us, but Pendleton, ever the worrier, had almost grown accustomed to warning me whenever the opportunity presented itself. Jack, I wonder if the tower's treating you better. I want to see you again, but... I couldn't fault Pendleton for being so cautious. Jack and Bradley were both part of something much bigger than any of us, and that something bigger was now plenty aware of me. So, let them know me, I resolved. I could be a target of theirs, but I would never let fear of that stop me from pursuing my goals. Days passed. Holmes and Watson were drowning in work. Clients seemed to approach them with this and that and something or other. Marple always alighted upon engaging in a friendly chat with me, but her chats were supplemented with tea and sweets, and I found myself increasingly concerned for my figure. And I had my own affairs to attend to. My free moments soon were costly, a change which I found pleasing, for my time became split between my detective studies and establishing the school. My frequent visits to the East End were made possible by Pendleton, serving as my bodyguard each time. If only doing so didn't restrict his own work, I could see my investment had started to become a little tiring for him. Phew.
What's brought this on, my lady?
Nothing in particular.
Then please, concentrate on your work. I'm only neglecting my itinerary for the sake of yours.
You're right. I know better than that. I wanted so dearly for there to be a school, and what effort could be put in to that end was not spared by neither myself nor Pendleton. It was unfortunate that the public greeted these efforts with limited enthusiasm. The East End saw their children as a valuable source of labor, had come to learn. What value would there be stuffing their noses in books when there was work to be done? I was not discouraged. In fact, this reception was precisely what my school was ready to change. If I could show them the joy and importance of education, then I would proudly wear their criticisms as battle scars in a war well fought. As routine settled in, however, Pendleton approached me with modest adjustment.
My lady, if you don't take issue, I would like to assign someone else as your bodyguard during your trips to the East End.
What? You won't be coming with me?
If my schedule allowed it, why, I would very much like to continue escorting you. But there is paperwork to be done, accounting to account for, and teachers to recruit for your school, which I confess requires a large bulk of my attention.
Is it not possible to hire someone else to do that in your place?
I did consider that possibility, and I found a very suitable candidate to be your bodyguard first. His manners are a bit lacking, but his strength would greatly favor you. It brought to mind that we could benefit from having a footman amongst our staff as well. So with your approval, I may hire him. Will you allow it?
I don't see any reason to object. When will he start?
I happened to call him here today.
What? Today?
Permit me to introduce you. Come in.
And so I became lost for words. I don't believe it. I couldn't. Still, he could and was. There he stood, his back straight, his face pale but not sickly, and his silver hair groomed handsomely.
Good day, my lady. My name is Jack, and I will be working here from today.
Why? Why indeed? I nearly cried at the sight of him, but I fought back and struggled to steady my voice before control was lost.
I regret I cannot answer for the present, but I'll be doing my utmost to serve you till I'm able and beyond. It would be my pleasure to do so.
Jack! I ran forward and threw my arms around him. Jack did not reciprocate, a point of professionalism than of rejection. He displayed an exquisite courtesy when removing my hands as to not offend me.
I am but a loyal butler in your employ, my lady. I shall not behave in any manner that could be perceived as improper.
Despite this courteousness, I was a touch upset at first. It didn't take long for me to realize he was responding as Pendleton had instructed. If you must. So if I were to order you, you would do as loyal butlers do and behave improperly? That could have been a bit too indulgent a thing to ask, but having already known the answer, indulgency triumphed over reason.
That's all very well, but given that we're in polite company, I would prefer to wait till later.
Well, later it is then. Lovely. We'll be off to the East End now.
All right. Take care.
I skipped out the door straight away. My smile was broad. Were I any lighter, I may as well have floated off into the sky. Jack didn't appear to be at the peak of health, but he followed behind with a butler's promptness. I concluded that the lack of evidence in the Ripper case had extended to his other charges and gained him freedom. It could have also been that more misunderstandings with his involvement arose. Oh, what did it matter? Dreams do come true. Knowing Jack was with me, that I could see him again, brought me a joy the likes of words could not describe.
Well, that ought to cheer her up a bit. I'll be certain to make very good use of that boy, whatever her needs may be.
The morning Jack intended to surrender himself to the police had been a peculiar one in several ways.
Jack, were the law to have its way, your crimes would earn you the death penalty. Be that as it may, if you swear to reform, as well as lend us your talents for the sake of protecting Lady Whiteley from harm and evil, then I shall, with respect, use my authority as one who works for the police and Foreign Office's Secret Intelligence Service to permit you to be by her side. Wait, who the hell are you? That will be a question answered at another time. What must be addressed now is your life sentence. As far as the world is concerned, the noose has long taken you. But as your luck would have it, I have want for a dead man. You would protect Lady Whiteley from the shadows, support her every need, even if it costs you your life. And that don't worry you? Suppose Emily has a face like mine flittering about her. What if one day... Forgive my directness, but I have suspected for some time that you have feelings for Lady Whiteley. At her age, I would not fault her if she were to develop a similar fondness for you. However, she is the sole living member of House Whiteley, and as such, she has a duty to inherit the family name and become its head. I would not dismiss the possibility of our social structure changing. There may be a future where one can love and marry, regardless of class. But that would be best left to another in our age of revolution. House Whiteley is an esteemed family, and it would take more than that to throw away tradition in a single generation. Which brings me to a final condition. When the time comes for her to wed a man of noble parentage, you will suppress your love and continue to aid her quietly. Will you swear to it? Then you plan to use me down to my own to protect her. I understand, and swear to it. I pledge my unwavering loyalty to the head of the Honourable House Whiteley, Emily Whiteley, and I shall serve her till I breathe my last. Thank you, Jack. Then from this moment on, you are one of us, a guardian of this household. Pendleton, I've long thought you carried the scent of a similar kind to me. Now I might just know why. Have you? Regardless, Lady Whiteley has a taste for the unprecedented. I doubt her nature will change with you. Still, stand by her with all your heart and soul. I will. But I want to make clear that I did not agree for lack of better alternatives. I chose this for my own sake. It pleases me so to see her smile come back. After all, the real battle is only just beginning.
A knock on the door distracted me. It wasn't any of the maids, and it certainly could not have been Pendleton. It had the awkward texture of one unsure how to do it with elegance. Yes?
Can I come in?
Of course. Pendleton said he was retiring for the night, too. I opened it on my side first. There's so much I want to ask you, Jack. Like, what your favorite things are. You never did tell me in your letters.
No, I don't think I did. Alright, don't see the harm in telling you a little.
He returned to me a clumsy, resigned smile. But his eyes were softer in spirit than I had ever seen them. No longer did I have reason to fear tomorrow. I could talk to Jack about ourselves, the past, the present, and even our futures, and he would still be there. The long nights were once a source of unease for me. But he, born in its cradle, made the night feel peaceful. The glow of a midnight lamp was all we had for light, and yet I was comforted. I smiled at Jack. And when he entered, I delightedly closed the door behind me. Love letter. A letter Jack wrote to me that's been kept between us. The door to a new story, Her Secret Ring, has been opened in the extras section. Destined end.
This ending music reminds me a lot of Fate.
Let's have a 10-minute break, then we wrap it up with epilogue. Credit ends, we shall take a 15-minute break. Then we wrap it up with the epilogue.
There's an epilogue?
It's the extras.
Epilogue.
How long is it?
About 45 minutes or so.
You think I'll have any lines?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah. Quite a few people didn't have any lines today.
Yeah. Just waiting. All by myself.
And I felt bad because I was like hogging most of the scenes with Jack and Pendleton, and then fucking Ryan showing up.
Fighting with yourself.
Freaking Ryan, man.
Yeah, I mean, just like real life. Fight with myself. Dude, everyone fights with themselves. Oh, that Spider-Man gif. Yeah.
Dude, that gif of you, Jack, man.
I mean, yeah.
Like, that's the alternate universe that I didn't want to see.
And that was also that was the ultimate bad ending.
Just he comes out as New Jack. he throws his classmates off the top of those tables or whatever.
Goodness.
Little do we know that this is actually Jack, who is also known as Raiden from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Sussy Jack.
He could have
Sussy Jack. He does look similar.
Yeah, Salty Jack